Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you guys this sewing machine. I already made part 1 video where I show you guys from the box, and in today's video I'll be showing you guys the main product. As you can see here, this is my Juki Hzl-60 series, and in the series you have different type of Hzl-60, and this is the Hzl-60-hr-b. Let me go ahead and remove the hard case and then show you guys the main product. This is my sewing machine, and as you can see here, it's written Hzl-60-hr-b. From the box in my previous video, it was only written Hzl-60 series. I'm going to start off by showing you guys the accessories that came with this sewing machine. These are some of the accessories that came with the sewing machine. You have the plug, goes into the sewing machine, and you need to plug it for you to be able to make the sewing machine to start working. And it also came with the foot controller. This is something that you might not need because the sewing machine functions by itself without using this. But if you're someone that is used to the old kind of sewing machine, the mechanical, electrical kind of sewing machine, or only the mechanical kind of sewing machine, you will need to start with the foot controller so that in the meantime you learn how to use the button instead of using the foot controller. That way you can use both of them. Like I said before, this sewing machine functions without this. This is not needed if you don't want to use this. Now what I'm going to be doing is plugging in the plug and then show you guys the functionality of the sewing machine. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the sewing machine. Here is where you put in your plug, and here is where you turn on the sewing machine. And as you can see, turning on the sewing machine is giving me light. I like the fact that this sewing machine has an LED light because my other sewing machine, I had to remove the bulb because when the light is on for too long, it starts becoming hot. Like you feel the hotness here, like where the bulb is, that's where you feel the heat. I had to open this part of the sewing machine and remove the bulb so that I don't mistakenly touch the air and it feels hot and then I'm not comfortable when I'm sewing. But this sewing machine has an LED light, so even if the machine is on for hours, you don't feel anything that is hot, and this is a very beautiful thing about this sewing machine. So the next thing here is where you plug in the foot controller. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. If you're not going to be using it, you don't need to plug it inside there. As you can see, this is the foot controller. Normally, I'm supposed to be having this under my table and I just have to press this with my leg. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to be using my hand to press this. As you can see, it's sewing. I can leave it without using it if I want to. All I have to do is to press the start and stop button and to start sewing by itself. And it has stopped. The next thing that I made mention of about the sewing machine in my previous video is the fact that if the presser foot, which is this, is up, the machine shows red here, which means you cannot use it to sew. The reason why is because when you raise up the presser foot, is for you to flip the fabric or remove the fabric. When you put back the fabric, you need to put this down so that it holds the fabric in place while it is sewing. Lifting up the presser foot, you just have to take this part up, and now it's showing red, meaning that you cannot use this machine to sew. I'm going to go ahead and try to press the foot controller. As you can see, it's not doing anything. And I also try to press this button. As you can see, it's not doing anything. But when I put it down, it shows red. It shows green, meaning I can start using it to sew now. Another thing that I made mention of in my previous video is the fact that when it shows orange or yellow, that's when you're winding the bobbin. To wind the bobbin, you flip this part to the other side and you start winding your bobbin. Even when it's showing orange color, it does not mean that you cannot press here, because when you press here, that's when it starts winding the bobbin. So let's try to press and see what happens. As you can see, here is winding, but I don't have anything there at the moment. So after you finish winding your bobbin and you put it back to the position where it was before, it shows you green, and now you can start using it to sew. Another thing that I made mention of in my previous video is this. This is the reinforcement stitch button that helps you at the beginning of your sewing and also at the end of your sewing, so that when you finish sewing, what you finish sewing does not start losing from the beginning or from the ending of your sewing. When you use this, the needle goes in 3 times and make that stitch to be reinforced before you press the start button and you start sewing. I'm going to go ahead to press this button now. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it does the stitch 3 times, and then you can now start your sewing. And when you finish sewing, you still press this button. It goes 3 times, and then you can cut off the thread. That way, if you cut off the thread, the sewing will not start losing. Another thing that almost all sewing machine has is the back or the reverse stitch button, because once you start sewing, you press the start button, you stop, you take it backward a bit, and then you press the start button and you start sewing. And when you finish sewing, you repeat the same thing again to make the beginning of the stitch to be strong enough so that it doesn't start loosening. And then you repeat the same process at the end of your sewing. And because I'm used to this reverse stitch, I use this most of the time. And like I said in my previous video, I still use both of them. So it depends on what I feel like using. The next button here that I'm going to be talking about in this video is this button. This button helps with the position of your needle whenever you finish sewing. You can either position the needle to always be up whenever you finish sewing, or to always be inside the fabric. I personally prefer my needle to be always up whenever I finish sewing. That way it's easy for me to bring out the fabric, because if the needle is always inside the fabric, even when I lift up the presser foot, I cannot remove the fabric. So to always make my sewing to be easy for me, I always like my needle to be up anytime I finish sewing. And this is what this button helps you to do. Something about this button is, if the needle is inside the fabric, you can either go here and just roll it up, and then your needle will go up and you can remove the fabric. But the fact that your needle is up does not mean that each time you finish sewing, your needle will always be up. No. If you roll it up and remove your fabric and you put back the fabric and start sewing again, anytime you stop, the needle will always be inside the fabric. So that's what this button is for. You can either position it inside or outside. Like I said before, I always like it to be outside. That way it's easy for me, because if I'm not sewing again, what is the needle still doing inside? Okay, this is where I'm going to be ending today's video, because I don't want these videos to be too long, and I always want each video to be educative so that I'm able to put in more effort in explaining everything in the best way that I can. More information about this sewing machine is going to be coming up on this channel, and if you miss any of the video, all you have to do is to go to my playlist and look for the Juki Hzl-60 series machine and meet up with all the videos. Or you can simply subscribe to my channel, turn on the bell notification. That way whenever any new video is up, you will know, you will be notified, and you can come immediately to watch the video, or whenever you feel like coming to watch the video. And please, before you leave guys, do not forget to hit the like button if you like this video, and also leave me your comments in the comment section below. That way I know anything that you want me to know. And yes, thank you guys for watching, and I'm wishing you all a beautiful day. Ciao, ciao.